These are the Sony XM6 headphones, and Sony have made one huge change, but there's a caveat. The Sony XM4s are still my favourite noise-cancelling headphones of all time. It's the price, it's the sound quality, the noise-cancelling obviously, and they have the best case on the market alongside the Beats Studio Pro. Utterly fantastic, and that's why you still see loads of them everywhere. Then we got the Sony XM5s, and they just weren't as good, in my opinion. The big problem literally was the case. It was just way too big, and that made carrying them around an absolute pain, which meant I didn't really use them much. When I got my hands on the XM6, I had several questions, but I wanted just a few things fixed by Sony and improved. The caveat that I mentioned at the start of this video is the fact they cost 400 quid. £400, which is a lot of money. I was speaking to someone else about this the other day, and he was saying that he gets the impression that the AirPods Max from Apple have kind of pushed up the price of noise-cancelling headphones, and I think he's got a point with that. However, regardless of that, it does mean that these have to perform. If you're going to spend £400 on these, they need to be good. The most important question, though, is do you go from the XM4s, or maybe the XM3s, which were very good as well, to the XM6, and do you go from the XM5s to these? Before I get there, although this video isn't sponsored, we do have some fantastic brand partners who help us keep the lights on in this studio. One of them is Brain FM, and Brain FM is basically an app that pipes music into your head that is basically designed to make you more productive. They can't guarantee that, obviously, but what I will say is that over the last 3 years, I can't work without it. If I'm doing any kind of writing, any kind of deep work where I have to lock into what I'm doing, I have to use Brain FM. And the best news is, guys, I've worked with Brain FM to get you a very tasty discount. Go and check it out. The link is in the description. Let's get into the XM6. Let's start with the design, because I think Sony has made some very interesting and smart choices with the XM6, starting with the power button, which isn't the most exciting thing, but it's these small quality of life changes that make a big difference with headphones. It's circular and recessed, which just means when you put them on your head, you know where it is. And trust me, that makes a big difference. And it's a big problem with headphones where all the buttons have the same design and it's fiddly. That isn't the case on the XM6. We only get 2 buttons still, power and noise cancelling, which means we still have touch controls, which I'm not a big fan of at all, but at least on the XM series they do work and they're not too intrusive. The other change they've made is that the cups angle forwards, so they're a bit more like that compared to the XM4s and XM5s. And again, that just aids putting them on your head, which sounds ridiculous, but it just means you know which one is the left and the right cup. Again, a big problem with headphones where they're kind of asymmetrically designed, is that the right phrase? They just look the same from every angle, which means you quite often put the left on that side and the right. You get the point. It's just quality of life changes, which makes a big difference. They're still incredibly light. I know one of the big things that people love about the XM5s is that they are so light and just, you put them on your head and they basically disappear. It's the exact same thing with these. They're incredibly comfortable. They have changed the design and the material, I think, of the headband and the ear cushions, and you can just wear these for hours and hours, and that's what the XM series has always been about. It's been about the noise cancelling, it's been about the sound as well previously, and it's been about the comfort. So they've got that completely nailed. The other thing I will say about the design is that the black pair that I was given to review do smudge. They smudge quite badly, as you can see there. So personally, I would go with the silver version or the midnight blue, both of which look very nice. The other thing they've done, and I might as well just get straight to it, I can't leave you hanging, can I, with this? They have changed the case! Yeah, the case, look at it. I mean, I've got to be careful not to make this entire video about the case for the XM6, but oh, I'm so excited. That's the XM5 case, and that is the XM6 case. Look, it may not come across on camera, to be fair, but it's so much smaller, so much more convenient to carry around. It's not that much bigger than the XM4 case. It's a little bit bigger, but a little bit wider possibly, but not by much. But the big thing is it's nowhere near as big as this thing. And they've included this kind of magnetic clasp, which gets rid of the zip, basically. So there's no zip on here. You just undo that and open it, and there you go. And it always closes, so you just go like that, and it's locked. Genius. Why has no other headphone brand done that? And inside, yes, we have a little pouch for your cables, which is a little bit tight. It's a little bit fiddly to get stuff in. That's the one thing I would say. We do still have a carry strap handle thing, which is quite big, but you can lose it inside the headphone case like that. The reason they've managed to get this case smaller is because finally, and again, I hope other headphone manufacturers follow suit with this, we can fold these properly. So on the XM5, they just do that. They don't do that, basically. Whereas the XM4 did. The XM6 have gone back to doing that, which means we can fold them much, much smaller, pop them into the case. That wasn't the best demonstration. Take the loop out first, put them in the case, hide the loop if you want to, or keep it out. Sony, thank you. I love it when brands listen. It makes such a difference. Clearly, they heard what a lot of us were saying about this case, and they've made the most important change to these headphones. And I'm so happy. I need to stop talking about the case now. I need to talk about the sound and the noise cancelling. So let me get to that. But yeah, design, case, brilliant. Okay, when it comes to testing headphones, I use my iPhone 16e, yes, really, and Apple Music. I know that's not the highest bitrate that you can feed the XM6, but it's my point of reference, so that's why I do that. And what I thought I'd do is test them out of the box without doing any kind of comparison to begin with, and cutting to the chase, they sounded fantastic. Out of the box, all I want from consumer headphones is audio that is exciting, that isn't too harsh, that doesn't have too much mid-range, that has enough bass without it being too uncontrolled. And these absolutely smash that in every area. The best way to describe the sound profile is that it has a rounded bottom end, stop laughing at the back, and it has sparkly highs, sparkly top end that isn't too harsh, and then that mid-range is definitely scooped out a little bit. But I think with the XM6, I think there's a slight boost in the kind of upper mid-range area, which isn't unpleasant at all. It makes them sound very kind of hi-fi like, really. I'm not an audiophile. If you're coming to this review looking for a detailed analysis of every frequency response on the XM6, you're not going to get that at all, but you will get me saying these are just a very good sounding pair of headphones. If you get these out of the box having spent £400, which is a lot of money, you won't be disappointed. That is the key thing. I can guarantee that. And if you want to tweak the sound, if you're a bit more of an audiophile, if you're someone who does like to have more bass or more mid-range or whatever, there is a 10-band EQ on these as well, so that's fantastic. They have completely new 30mm drivers, so they're a completely different design compared to the XM5s. Now, comparing them to the previous generation, starting with the XM4s, this was interesting because, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the XM4s they're still, let me come on to this. I might change that opinion, but they've always been my favourite pair of noise cancelling headphones, not least because of the audio. Compared to these sounded a bit flat, a bit muddy, a bit kind of just not very exciting, dare I say. This is the weird thing about headphone testing, and you have to take this with a pinch of salt, that these are still a fantastic pair of headphones. If you just bought them now for not very much money, you'd be very happy with them. But if you do this, if you put them on your head and then listen to the same track like that, and then do that, these sound better because that's A/B testing. Normal people don't do that, but it's useful to know if you're coming from the XM4s. Compared to the XM5s, the XM6 are just better sounding by quite a distance. The XM5s are just not very exciting. There's that word again, exciting. Not exciting, used to be very exciting, the new exciting. That's the best way to describe the audio on all three of these headphones. Oh, and Sony has a new app, which is called Sony Sound Connect, which finally brings together all of your Sony audio devices, all of your headphones, your speakers, etc., into one app, which is better than before because it was separate apps for each type of device. That's a big change, and I'm here for it. But the other big thing for the XM6 is the noise cancelling. When it comes to noise cancelling, I have one question. Are the XM6 the new noise cancelling kings? Yes, they are. Let's cut straight to the chase. They need to be because they're £400, but also because the XM5s were the best on the market, and so were the XM4s. And I know most people are going into the comments now and saying things, but I don't care. For me, Sony have always been the best at noise cancelling, and these just continue that trend, basically. The calling quality is fantastic. The pass-through mode, where you let the outside world in, again, is very good. They have a new chip, the QN3. A/B testing the XM6 versus the XM5. Not a massive difference. The world goes a little bit quieter with these, possibly, but it's not by much. But again, these were amazing. So we've gone from amazing to a bit more amazing. What was more interesting was the comparison between the XM6 and the XM4s. The XM4s have more hiss, and the world just doesn't go quite as quiet as it does on the XM6. So if you're coming from the XM4 to the XM6, it's a big upgrade in terms of noise cancelling. Given the price, the XM6 needed to be fantastic. Good news is they are. Sony has absolutely smashed this release. If you're coming from the XM4, which I suspect a lot of people are, it's a massive upgrade. If you're coming from the XM5, again, it's a big upgrade. Standing alone in the market, they are just a brilliant pair of headphones. The design, the case is now one of the best on the market. The sound is fantastic. The noise cancelling, in my opinion, is the best on the market. You can't get any better when it comes to noise cancelling headphones. And now I have a question for you. I want to know what headphones you want me to compare these against, because I've done that a lot in the past with the XM4s and the XM5s, and I know that you'll be comparing these against something else. So get involved in the comments and let me know which pair of headphones you want me to pitch these against. And remember, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, make sure you do, because you don't want to miss future videos about these. Trust me.